wrapping up the whole investment, money, how to grow funds, how to get access to funds part of this event. And we're going to be wrapping it up with one panel. A panel moderated by Salah Hawad, the Deputy Program Director of Berytech, so one of our very own. And, we're going to be talking about enabling digital transformation. How do we tailor it to meet our criteria and to meet the standards of the market? Salah.
Thank you, Yumna. Thank you for the great introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you talking about this interesting topic. So, as Yumna said, it is all about the digital transformation. Today, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that are seeking to be entrepreneurs or startups that are fighting within the ecosystem in the MENA region, in Lebanon, everywhere. So digital transformation is a hype. Yes, it's in a fast-paced business expansion. Digital transformation is a tool that is used to expand the business. So in the age of pandemic, it has been accelerated. Digital transformation is not only using the digital platforms to talk with people. It's a sum of people, processes, and tools. So without further ado, please let me welcome our dear panelists. Our dear panelists are Rudy Shoushany. He is the producer and the host at the X Talk and the board member of the International Professional Association focused on IT governance. Hello, Rudy.
Hi, Salah.
It's always a pleasure having you. You are a dear friend and a partner of Berytech, a business partner. Also, please welcome, please help me, join me welcoming Bassem. Bassem, you are a dear friend. You are the solution architect in an international company. Everyone knows about GitHub. Thank you for being with us. It's always a pleasure to host you in such events. Hello again.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Bassem. And last but not least, Ned Jarudi. He's also Berytech close partner, and he's one of the people who worked with us on several programs in Berytech. He's a startup and VC ecosystem lead in the Middle East and North Africa. He's working at the Amazon Web Service, AWS, the international giant. Hello, Ned, and welcome to our panel.
Thank you.
We are glad having you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So jumping directly into the discussion, I will start by addressing Rudy. So Rudy, my question would be, and the audience question would be, what is the digital transformation? So what is the definition of the digital transformation? And what are the strategies and processes that need to be put in place to have a successful digital transformation? We know that at the age of the pandemic, it's becoming the new norm. So what is that digital transformation in terms of definition and the processes and strategies?
Sure. Thank you, Salah. And I'm very honored to be here today. Let's talk it first in simple words, and then we'll take it further. It's the adoption of digital technology to transform services and businesses through replacing non-digital or manual processes with digital processes. So this is how it is on a general scale, and then everyone will relate. But with how things are going, and especially more with the COVID, the reality is actually much more. It's about transforming at the core of the company or the association. It's transforming the leadership, the culture, the process, and the technology. So it's way beyond just taking, a normal paper and transform it to a digital mean. So for the second part, which is related to the strategies, now with COVID-19, digital transformation has been so fast now, and it's here to stay. So working from home, for example, became the new reality and the new normal. So we have to highlight that the failure of digital transformations is accounted around 70% of the project, which is huge money, which will make a lot of waste of investments. And of course, the board of directors are not happy. stakeholders are not happy, and investors. First, we need to have a governance system there to really try to define everything in the project, or that mentality and shift of strategy towards the digital transformation. Otherwise, it's going to be messy. So we need to focus on the processes as a general rule, lowering the cost, reducing the cycle time, and of course, increasing the quality, that the output, if you want to call it. Third, it's about having a measurable, clear strategy, not something out of science fiction. We'll leave the science fiction for the NASA and the rest, but we need to really achieve something. We want to go to the Mars. Of course, this is where our target, but today we want more to transform into a digital world. So I'll sum it up in the end. In the fast changing world, digital savvy leaders building internal skills and capabilities is a must. So this is the only way actually you can process and then go and jump that digital transformation. So I'll give it back to you, Salah.
Great. Thank you for the intervention. Definitely, those pillars need to be adapted, and it's a culture after all. So I've checked that a lot of companies, they are moving also from local ecosystem to the global ecosystem, global arena, thus moving into cloud. So my next question would be for you, Ned. When we are saying businesses are moving on the cloud, can you explain it, please, to our audience? So how can startups and the SMEs that are attending today and that will be hearing us leverage the power of cloud to innovate and transform? And how do you have any stats on the future of businesses and the cloud usage from your end at AWS?
Sure, it's a lot of questions. I'll try to answer them one by one. First of all, thank you very much for having me on the panel. Thank you, Berytech, for organizing such a great conference. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the cloud, I'm sure a lot in the audience know what the cloud is, but let's take a step back. I mean, it all started back in 2006, not that long ago, right? So only 14 years ago. But basically, after a decade of building and running a highly scalable web application called Amazon.com, the company realized that it had developed really a core competency in operating and running massive IT infrastructure and data centers, and basically decided to go on a broader mission to really make that knowledge and processing power available to different customer segments, so developers and other businesses, large and small, with web services that they can use to build sophisticated, scalable applications, and thus AWS was born. So essentially, I mean, the term cloud computing refers to on-demand delivery of IT resources via the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So instead of buying, owning, and maintaining your own data center in your own company and servers, companies, big and small, can acquire technology such as compute power, storage, databases, and other services on an as-needed basis. So it's very similar to how consumers, for example, flip a switch to turn on the lights in their home, and how the power company sends electricity. Okay, so with cloud computing, for example, we at AWS manage and maintain the technology infrastructure for thousands of customers worldwide in a very secure environment. And these businesses can access these resources via the internet to develop and run their applications. So capacity can grow or shrink instantly, pretty much, and businesses will only pay for what they use. Now, in terms of specifically, how can startups and SMEs leverage the power of the cloud to innovate and transform? So again, there are a couple of reasons why SMEs and startups would want to do this. Startups are doing it already. I mean, they're digital natives, and they're already kind of almost born on the cloud. But in terms of kind of some of the benefits, let's say the first one would be agility, right? So the fact that the cloud lets you as a company quickly spin up resources as you need them, deploying hundreds or even thousands of servers in minutes compared to on-premises infrastructure where you have to buy a server, and it typically takes 10 to 12 weeks, sometimes longer, and you have to build all the infrastructure software etc., you get to implementation much faster. So in several orders of magnitude. I mean, Rudy was talking about how COVID has completely accelerated digital transformation. Well, the cloud allows you to even accelerate your digital transformation even more. And that's really attractive for smaller companies because that means they can very quickly develop, roll out their new applications, and their teams can experiment and innovate much more quickly and frequently. The second reason is cost savings. Everybody, obviously cost matters. It's something that everybody's thinking about. The good news is that a cloud like AWS would allow customers to trade capital expenses for variable expenses, so they don't have to invest heavily, and they only pay for IT as they consume it. And the variable expense is usually much lower than what customers can do for themselves because of the economies of scale that we can leverage and give back to the customers. So for instance, if we go back in time, it used to cost a startup about $500,000 to launch from an IT perspective. And that was a lot of money just to test an idea and experiment, right? And that's because you had to buy servers and software and all of that. Today, we are seeing startups launching for just a few $1,000s, right? And these startups are able to keep their operational costs low so that some of them stay completely bootstrapped, never needing to take funding for many years. And I've talked to startups who have become profitable in less than a year, and we're running everything as a kind of a one-person show. And these are companies that already have kind of millions of users. And if they tried to build such businesses years ago, it would just have been completely impossible without having the capital. So basically, we've enabled small and medium businesses and startups to build with less. And speaking of investors, I mean, the cloud has not really changed just how startups build, but also how VCs are investing, right? So if you think about it, what happens when you no longer need $500,000 to build a company? Suddenly, that amount of money you seek from investors drops substantially, right? So you don't need as much to get your business started. As a result, investors are able to use this money and spread it across multiple startups. So really spreading their risk across more bets, and hopefully that increases their chances of succeeding. And this is exactly what a Harvard Business School research study discovered in terms of the impact that the cloud, and specifically AWS, has had on increasing the number of early stage startups. The third reason why startups would want to move to the cloud is elasticity, right? So customers used to provision to ensure they had enough capacity to handle their business operations at the peak level of activity. Now, the provision can be very kind of dynamic and basically scale up or down based on the resources that you actually need, right? So you don't have to invest upfront in a lot of capacity and have this very big upfront cost. The fourth reason is that the cloud allows smaller companies like startups and SMEs to innovate faster. Why? Because they can focus on their highly valuable IT resources and really develop the service and product they provide to the customers that would differentiate them and transform the customer experience, instead of spending a lot of time on provisioning, operating, maintaining hardware, servers, etc. So by focusing on the core business value, startups and SMEs can invest more of their limited resources into actually growing their business. And the last reason is that the cloud enables customers to deploy globally in minutes, right? So for example, at AWS, we have this concept of a region, which is a physical location around the world where we cluster data centers. And we call each region an availability zone, each group of logical data centers an availability zone. And now customers around the world can leverage about 77 availability zones across 24 geographical regions, including Bahrain for the Middle East region. And we don't plan on stopping there.
Definitely.
Yeah, your last question talked about stats. I did some digging up some stats, and for 2021, the worldwide spending on cloud is expected to rise by 18% to $305 billion. So this is up from $256 billion in 2020. And this is according to Gartner research, which was actually released just a few days ago.
Nice.
Now, the percentage of IT spending on the cloud is still relatively low, but it is increasing amid the COVID outbreak and will reach about 14% of all global IT spending by 2024, which is up from 9% in 2020. And Gartner also found that almost 70% of organizations are now using cloud services to bump up, and they aim to bump up their cloud spending as they focus on flexible and really cost and expenses and cost optimization in the wake of the problems triggered by the pandemic. For startups, obviously the percentage is much higher. As I said, they're born on the cloud and the digital natives. And we talked even in our Q3 earnings last month about how our cloud business continued to grow during the pandemic, and demand for digital native products such as Slack and Zoom, which rely on the cloud, remained very high during the pandemic.
Great. Thank you, Ned, for the great explanation about those items that we talked about. So from digital savviness to reducing total cost of ownership and utilizing the cloud, now we need to have a faster time to market. So Bassem, it is you who I should pose the question to. So as a senior professional in a company that drives continuous delivery and continuous integration, do you consider it as a digital transformation culture? And what are the advantages driven by the CI/CD, the continuous integration and delivery, since you have worked in Lebanon and MENA previously? Where do you see the areas of improvement?
Perfect. I mean, I hope I can do as much of a good job as Ned. He obviously did his homework, and it was a pretty nice answer. So with regard to CI/CD, yes, I work at GitHub, and it's a fantastic organization, mainly not because of the tech per se, but because of the people I get to work with, right? My colleagues are some of the most awesome people in the world, and not to tout my own horn, it's just that they have a lot of knowledge and experience that comes with them, and they are really great at doing their own thing. Now, when it comes to CI/CD and the benefits of it, continuous integration and continuous deployment and delivery means that the software development cycle is much more optimized, and then the time from which the developer gets the request to build a feature until the point where they get to deploy it in production for the users to actually use it is shortened, right? Now, the issue with CI/CD is, as part of my job as a solution architect, is to advise large companies and corporations of how they can set up their software development life cycles, right, end to end, and how they can optimize their processes. In my opinion, the first thing that organizations should start with, and this also applies to the MENA, is focusing on the people. That's number one. Number two, the processes. You cannot automate what does not exist, right? You cannot just say, I'm doing CI/CD by just spinning off a Jenkins instance. We're not going to go too much into the technical, but by spinning off some tool and saying, yeah, I have automated integration now, right? First of all, build your software development lifecycle, then focus on the processes that come into this cycle, right? Help your people move faster in the manual process, right? First and foremost, make sure you enable everyone part of this pipeline or part of this process to deliver their work as effectively as possible, and then start looking into how you can automate the different chunks to optimize and speed up. Now, the second part of this that I want to mention is you do not wake up one day and say, I want to do CI/CD, right? This is a long, ongoing journey that you need to invest in over phases and over years, right? And the investment doesn't only come in terms of moving to the cloud, let's say, or adopting GitHub Actions or any other automation tooling. The investment has to come in making sure you bring in the right people, you invest in the proper talent, you train this talent, and most importantly, from a leadership perspective, you need to educate yourselves as business leaders on what this technology means, right? And what this new way of working actually means. A big chunk of my time is spent with CTOs and VPs of engineering, talking to them of how they can influence their internal cultures and how they can change it internally and how they can empower people to drive change, not parachute stuff on them, right? If you as a CTO come in one day and say, yeah, I heard about this CI/CD thing, can we do it tomorrow? You bring in a couple of your most brilliant engineers and say, yeah, how can we do that? Because I think it's the next big thing. You're not going to get your results by that, right? So again, educate yourself on the technology, build a proper foundation, and then work towards automating it and making it more effective.
Thank you, Bassem, for this detailed explanation. I relate to a lot of what you have said since I'm in the technology field. So definitely, this is super interesting. So moving from that tech edge into to you, Rudy, where I've seen that you have a channel talking about the digital transformation. So I've received a lot of companies and a lot of startups asking about how to apply the digital transformation as part of their business as usual. So what they need to start, where they need to start. If they are non-digital, as you mentioned, and they're going digital, if they are digital and they want to expand, and what is your advice on that? How to apply this shift, and what is the time versus budget needed to do so? Is it an easy thing? I know this is a lot of questions, but people are asking about those every time that we raise digital transformation.
Right. Thanks, Salah. And I want to thank Ned. I think he kind of, I can build a lot of things about what he said, and because one of the things is a cloud native approach is a must. But I will start before with the time. I think it's no longer a question of when. It's with COVID today, if you didn't start, you'll be suffering. I think we witnessed this in our local markets. So many companies that we know that they didn't have any online channels or whatsoever, and they are big and they are huge. But now I don't know what's going to happen to them. Some of them are closed. Some of them, they are suffering. So COVID changed everything. A few months back, I'll reiterate on working from home was even a dream. And that forced companies actually to change their mentality, to change. No, actually, it was a successful scenario. But working from home is not only, I'm here and I'm working. No, with that, you have a lot of back-end things that you have to think about. And if you didn't plan before, you're going to be facing a lot of challenges. And many companies did, of course. But if you were ready, things would have been much smoother. You could have, your performance would have been much better. But this is how it is. So now, regarding the advice, yes, in my talk show, I talk a lot about digital transformation, and I bring people from experts from the industry and so on to really try to see what is available, all of these emerging technologies. Everything today is happening so fast. Bring strategists, bring culture people, related to digital transformation, because it's not only technology based. So with that, we talk about how things can move and how the audience are asking questions, also learning, and then we started also workshops and so on. So the best way is to simplify really the digital transformation today, to start with your strongest asset and produce what you're thinking and how it can be online, all right? So you have to start at the core. What do you have at the core? SMEs today have an advantage to transform. Right, we have a problem of budgets and so on, but they do have an advantage. They are smaller costs, shorter time to market, as you mentioned also in your introduction, and it's easier to transform. So I think the cloud adoption here will give a big kickstart and time to market, as Ned explained. And Ned explained it, I think, in an excellent way. So traditionally, let's say for a traditional company, they want to make some expenses into a data center. It used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. The more you grow, the more, it runs and taps into the millions. And now we can use that money actually to hire leadership, to hire people with skills, to put in technology, something different. So the cloud adoption really helps, and leverage small. With the cloud, you can leverage from small to supercomputers. For example, I want a supercomputer to calculate something. I have a project, before you couldn't tap onto this. Now you can tap with a few thousands of dollars. And this is beautiful. You don't have to invest millions. That your investment today is about thousands of dollars. But knowing with little budgets, it's harder to hire leadership teams and so on. So one of the options, of course, it's outsourcing, is to create possibly, your internal engine to kickstart reskilling and upskilling and so on internally, and try to really tap to funds. There's a lot of associations that are and NGOs that are helping companies today in transforming to digital world. I've been on this talk on different time frames, and Berytech is also aligned with many of them, from EU to USAID and so on and so on. And one last thing, which really can help you a lot, is possibly to tap onto the open source, which can reduce a lot the total cost of ownership and the way you work. So with that, I think you have a power today, summed in all of us, what we are talking about here, to really kickstart your next phase.
Definitely. Thank you, Rudy, for that. I will get back to my question to Ned, but before going to Ned, I have a quick question for Bassem. So Bassem, for the job market, as we have seen that technologies are moving, and so as the job market, so it's changing. So in the digital transformation, what type of skills in a quick way that are needed, or how to use it, let's say?
Yeah. So in order for you to have, again, an effective digital transformation, you need the following people in your organization, right? You need the system administrators, you need DevOps engineers, what we call currently DevOps engineers, but they are basically cloud experts or cloud engineers that will allow you to build up the appropriate infrastructure for you to host your solutions and maintain them, scale them up, so on and so forth. Even if you have an on-premise setup, the fundamentals are not that different, right? We just shifted things from your data center to the cloud. It's very important for you to build up development software engineering capacity across the entire team. And I'm not saying just to hire software engineers, but also hire product managers, project managers, and all your middle leadership team to have some form of technical background. This is very, very, very effective. And I see it day to day at GitHub. For example, we have a majority of the people I work with have a technical background, even if they later on transition to different roles. This allows them to have the empathy necessary, so on and so forth. Now, in terms of you as an engineer, let's say, how can you keep up with the trends? You cannot. Focus on the fundamentals, on the important, let's say, pillars of our domain. Maintain your exposure to the trends as much as possible. You have plenty of platforms for that. Hacker News, so on and so forth, Reddit and whatnot. You can, there's plenty of online courses that you can take. Spend some chunk of your weekend building up your capacity in different domains, different areas. Explore, experiment, do a lot of side projects. I personally tinker a lot. And I believe this is very, very essential for you to always stay, close to the edge and aware at least of what's happening, so that when a trend transforms from something that is hyped into something more concrete, you're at the forefront, and you do not need a lot of time to ramp up on the knowledge for you to be effective within your organization.
Thank you, Bassem. Thank you, Bassem. So final word for you, Ned, about the critical components, let's say, in the successful transformation to the cloud. So if we can take it through 1 minute quickly about what are those critical components, since we are a bit short on time. So can you please tell us about those components?
Yes, absolutely. And this is something that our CEO, Andy Jassy, talks about all the time. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details given that we're under time constraint, but you can watch his talk, keynote from the reInvent event from 2019. And he talks about 6 critical components for a successful transformation, which are leadership alignment, breadth and depth, modernization, data at scale, machine learning, and really breaking through barriers. The first one, the leadership alignment, I think that's something that both Bassem and Rudy alluded to. You need to have basically everybody kind of aligned and moving in the right direction, and having those aggressive top-down goals that everybody can commit to. And then, of course, you need to have the right skills. So you need to train the people that would be building and helping build your digital transformation. And that's something that, of course, we're helping, hundreds of thousands of customers with every year. The second is depth and breadth. Once you make a decision that you're going through this digital transformation, you want to have the broadest set of capabilities, both in breadth and depth, that allow you to do the things that you want to do in terms of features and capabilities. Third one is modernization. So some of the biggest trends that we've seen is moving away from kind of old guard, expensive proprietary databases to more the open engines. I think also Rudy alluded to that as well. And then basically also something that was mentioned earlier is choosing the right technology and consulting partner to help you move to the cloud, right? And
Thank you. Yeah,
have a network.
definitely. Thank you for that. Thank you, our dear speakers and panelists.
I just, out of curiosity, since this is a virtual meeting, where is each of you joining us from today? Ned, where are you joining us from?
From Dubai.
From Dubai. And Rudy?
From Lebanon.
Bassam?
Netherlands here.
All right. Okay. Only Ned, I guess, or Salah. Salah, where are you?
Yeah, I'm from Lebanon, of course.
You're one of our own. So Ned, you're the only one. You're the only one who's in the Emirates, right?
On this panel, yes.
Are you from the Emirates?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for this panel. Thank you, Salah, for leading it and leading this talk, and everybody from joining us and for your time.